So you said you have your third child on the way, right?
Yeah, we have a just turned 5. We have an almost 3, and we have one coming around June-ish. We have 2 girls right now. I'm really hoping for a boy, Dr. Hodges.
you're gonna
I'm
you're
feeling
totally you're
I'm
totally
feeling
gonna have a girl.
outnumbered by estrogen in this house, man.
You're gonna have a girl. I have 3 girls, so it's fine.
That's
Once you
exactly
started,
what my wife says.
once you start going that road, why change up? So the so if you remember when they were babies, right, when they were just in the diaper, that they would just wet, right? They had no idea they were peeing. They were just
Yes.
wet. You might even change them, and we used to joke sometimes, oh, if the wind hits them, they'll pee because you take the diaper off and they'll pee or whatever. But they don't know they're peeing. That's because infantile pee voiding is a sacral reflex. So think about your bladder. It sends a signal to the bottom of the spinal cord, and it just loops back around. If there's enough signal going back saying I'm full to a certain volume, and the bladder does grow over time, then it just sends a signal back empty, and they don't even know it's happening. It doesn't never gets
Mm.
to their awareness. And then when you potty train your kids, at some point, they're 2, 3, whatever years of age, they start incorporating their brain into the voiding. So then you go from the bladder to the spinal cord up to the brain, and then we all can sit here and say, okay, my bladder's kind of full, I can go. And then eventually you feel more full and you go. And so you transition to a volitional voiding controlled by your brain. But that voiding transition from infant pattern reflex to adult is not like a switch off on. So that infant pattern can persist for a while, and it persists most aggressively, most persistently if you are what we call constipated. Doesn't make that sense to kids. So what a better specific terminology would be a dilated rectum. So think of your child when they were pooping. Maybe they didn't poop on time. A lot of kids don't. If they delay pooping or they put out these huge poops after they struggle to put a big poop out, it's because they had to poop, they didn't want to, they held it in, and it kind of piled up at the end of the colon, and then they forced it out.
Mm.
Most kids do that kind of subtly. I'd say all kids delay pooping, all humans do. And so if you x-ray them all, you
My
see this.
my brother-in-law used to have a dog that every time he pooped, he'd freak out and run away from it.
Yeah, so I mean, I see less issues with pooping in like the lower mammals, but because they think about it less. But it sounds like that one did. But so then they get this stretched out rectum, and it basically makes that and this is where it gets a little more complicated. In susceptible populations, not everyone. In susceptible populations, if you have the genes for it, then that stretched rectum makes that infant reflex persist. Okay, and so you're sleeping, and it fires off that reflex like a baby, so it never gets to your brain. Wake
Mm.
up, and
That's
you
really
and you
interesting.
yeah, and you go. And so then the more you stretch it, the more bladder overactivity you get. So it can manifest itself in further stages with like, oh, they get to the bathroom. They have to get to the bathroom right away when they have to pee during the daytime, or they pee on themselves during the day and they don't even know it. And we see it all the time. And then if you get even more backed up, you have poop accidents where the poop is literally just falling out. And so basically that explains, all of the 3 phases of accidents we see: poop accidents, daytime wetting, and nighttime wetting. And I could even tie in, you mentioned ADHD. So there's always been an association of ADHD and dysfunctional elimination. We know that kids that have accidents and so forth have about 10 times higher incidence of ADHD. So vice versa. So if you have ADHD, you're more likely to have accidents. And it was always like, well, they don't take time to go to the bathroom, or they don't listen to their body. But actually, there's what I'm seeing is that if you look at how these kids sleep that are wetting the bed, they sleep very poorly. Actually, they never get to deep sleep. It's very confusing. They're hard to arouse, but they never sleep well. I would
Mm.
compare it to sleep apnea. You ever had somebody with sleep apnea where they're kind of
Sure.
always, they never sleep well, even though they're sleeping because they're stopped breathing. So if your bladder is always kind of going haywire, your brain can never relax. So basically, you have these kids that never sleep well. And what's the most important thing for brain development, brain function kids is sleep. And so you
Yes.
can see how you flip that on its head, and all of a sudden maybe ADHD doesn't cause bedwetting. Maybe bedwetting causes ADHD. And so, and that will explain, if you get into the sleep theories, why they're wrong when they've done sleep studies. It's not deep sleep, it's inadequate sleep. And so if you look at that and you take these kids and you treat the poop, they get better sleep, they have less bedwetting, they're better behavior. And that's what I'm talking about. This model predicts things that if you take care of what we're saying, they do get better. If you worsen what we say, let's say you purposely constipated them more, they would wet more. right?
Mhm.
So that's why I'm so confident our theory is kind of the way to go.